Welcome in to After Nebrasketball. I am Jack Mitchell. Kaleb Henry is to my right on your screen. He's at Pinnacle Bank Arena. Hopefully you're checking us out on the Husker Maxer I-80 Club YouTube page live. If you are, please consider liking and subscribing so we can continue to do fun post-game shows like this for you. Minnesota 67, Nebraska 65. Nebraska erases, I believe, a 19-point deficit in that game. Come all the way back, take the lead, can't hit some key shots within the last 2 minutes, right around the rim, but then do get the putback they need to go ahead. Neither team has any timeout. Minnesota goes down, and a player that has a career game hits yet another three. Nebraska doesn't have a timeout, just has a few seconds to get it up, and has Andrew Morgan taking a shot that he actually nearly banks in. But as is always the case with those shots, they don't fall. Nebraska loses once again. There's a lot of discussion now about, obviously, what's left for this season. We can get into that. And I'll probably say some things that are going to ruffle some feathers on this, judging from the mood that I've picked up from the crowd so far. And by the way, I'm taking comments from our live show chat on Patreon. And so if you want to do that, you can. If you're on YouTube and want to chat, shoot us a super chat, and we'll put you up on screen for that as well. So I guess the first thing I want to say, beyond how this game went, beyond what it means for the rest of the season, is Nebraska dead? Do they still have a shot? Is just this fan base, man. They have been through so much crap, and here it is again, and two absolute groin kick losses in the worst way possible, back to back at home, either of which puts you in the position where you are likely to get in the NCAA tournament, and now they're out of that position, unfortunately, where they are likely to get in. And we've seen it happen before. The first thing I thought of was 2009 Texas A&M versus Nebraska, when Nebraska had a chance to beat that Texas A&M team and probably put themselves in position to get to the tournament. Josh Carter hits the dagger three down one to put Nebraska out of that game. They lose by 2. It felt like that again today. The offensive woes continued, and let's get Kaleb in now. I have plenty of thoughts on what happened today, but let's get Kaleb's first, as he is live at Pinnacle Bank Arena right now. By the way, we will have Jacob Bigelow joining us soon too. Kaleb, your thoughts on just an absolute gut punch, groin kick, heartbreak, slap in the face game to Nebraska fans.
Yeah, there's obviously a whole lot of bad and that little bit of good. The little bit of good being you had a 25-6 run to get back into it. The bad is you put yourself in a position to be down 19 points in the second half. You put yourself in a position to lose in the last minute. But like the good is you did what you needed to do to be in a position to win a game, a point. So getting to that last minute, though, because there's a lot that put Nebraska in the bad position, but getting to that last minute and having the Bryce getting to the rim, and then you're back down to 1, they get a shot, and then you get the 10-second call. Like you did the thing you needed to do because you only had so much time. It was, if you didn't get the 10-second call or a steal, you're going to foul and you're going to play the free throw contest. But then you get the ball back and you miss a shot. You get a putback. You take the lead, the timeout, and then there's not really the awareness to get to somebody down the floor. It was a relatively wide open shot from what I could see in here, and they take the lead. But then 4 seconds left. And there's not a lot of organization from Nebraska. You get it to Sam Hoiberg, who throws it cross court, and it looks like it's going to Juwan Gary. But because of a lack of spacing, and Andrew Morgan is running right alongside him, he catches the ball, pulls the trigger. And you're right, Jack, like he almost banked it in. But for as bad as Juwan Gary has been from 3, in your hierarchy of taking a 3 at any point in the game, Juwan is ahead of Morgan. So you get to that point in the game, and it is earlier this week was a giant missed opportunity for what you could have had. This one feels like this. I know you can win both games next week and win a game in Indianapolis, and you're probably still in the conversation because of where the bubble is. But this one feels like the dagger to Nebraska going back to the NCAA tournament.
All right, there you go, Kaleb. We can talk more about that later. I can tell you what some bracketologists who know more than I do, at least, about this are saying. But we got Jacob Bigelow now. Jacob, I can't imagine what the mood was like hearing from Fred and the players after this game. You just came from that. What did they have to say?
It was quite not good. We went Bryce Williams, then we got Ben Johnson, the Minnesota head coach, and then we got Fred. And Fred was about as I want to say grief stricken, but he was pretty. I mean, it was pretty mundane between him and Bryce Williams. Bryce Williams basically said without saying, this feels like Groundhog Day. I feel like I'm saying the same stuff, talking about getting off to good starts and having to, what causes getting off to bad starts and all that. He didn't use those exact words, but that's what it sounded like to me because, I hear things just, they sound like movies from the 80s and 90s. It's Groundhog Day. Again, that's what I heard from Bryce Williams.
Mm-hmm.
And then Fred Hoiberg, I mean, he put it pretty blunt. He said, we're running out of bullets. We got, we got 2 more games guaranteed. That's it. You can talk about the NCAA tournament bubble all you want. It's Big Ten tournament bubble watch time now.
Yep.
You've got what feels like the ultimate loser leaves town game on Tuesday night in Columbus with Ohio State and Nebraska. About as bubbly as it could possibly get. Both NCAA tournament and Big Ten tournament. And then, I mean, it's just kind of, I mean, it's, I'm here to talk, and I don't really have many words that people have not heard before because that felt all too familiar. The guy that on our show this morning, Jack, I said comes in the game to just take step back elbow twos, who had 3 points in his previous 5 games,
of course.
came in and dropped 20 off the bench on 7 of 8 shooting after I talked about all the bad shots Minnesota takes, and I still think they took a ton of just atrocious shots. But the guy that I said by name, when he's in the game, he just comes in to take bad twos. Just decided to come in and go nuts from 3 and hit one of the more cold-blooded dagger shots by either the home team or a visiting team that I've seen since this building opened.
Eleanor Deontay Grigsby took it personally. And he, the interesting thing is too, he makes that 3. He's sort of demonstrative at it. That drew the ire of the crowd. I could tell Juwan Gary decided he was going to go after him the rest of the game and had some success doing it. But through all that, Eleanor still hit 2 more big shots, including that 3-pointer there at the end. And so that was really impressive. He had a great game. What do you say? Another guy who normally isn't hitting threes, who normally isn't scoring those kinds of points, goes off against the Nebraska defense. It's a tale as old as time. And he had a great game. So hats off to him. He earned the right to celebrate and talk back to the crowd for sure. Let's go to the first half though, because that's, it wasn't in the end. Yes, things could have went differently at the end. They still could have won the game. They could have made some shots down the stretch. Andrew Morgan, as good as he played in the second half, misses 2 key shots there, 2 key field goals that could have put them ahead in the last few minutes of the second half. Gary, I believe, had one as well. Just a few misses where they had, but the first half is what put Nebraska in the hole. And the first half doesn't happen, and they play anything like they did in the second half, they win this game probably somewhat easily. But in the first half, Jacob, the offense was completely. I mean, it looked like you picked right up for the Michigan game for the most part. It seemed like almost the same thing for me in that first half.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of standing around. There was a lot of, it looked very stagnant, apathetic. I mean, all the words that you could possibly use to describe it. And they, I'm not looking to throw salt on it or add any insult to injury, but you go. I mean, this is just the stat broadcast, so I'm sure there's other like analytic box scores. The stat broadcast had them as 13 for 25 on layups. They went 11 for 20 at the free throw line, 13 for 25 on layups. They got 19 points off of 14 Minnesota turnovers. That was a lot of what played a part into that rally.
Yeah,
but I mean, they just looked
sure.
so helpless for the first, not even the full first 20 minutes, because they got it back to single digits at the halftime by halftime after Garcia went to the bench with 2 fouls. But I mean, they just looked like, like when you're playing NBA Live on GameCube and the game freezes and you got to pull out you got to pull it out and blow on it to try to get the game to work again. They were just standing around. The play from your 3 post players. I mean, Morgan. I've talked all year about plus minus not being the end all be all. Morgan ends up plus 17. The only guy with a plus minus in positive double digits. Berkeb Uchtengel's plus minus is minus 20.
Jeez.
Braxton Mia's is minus 12. And Morgan, who they kept going to late in the game, trying to get him, an and one or looks in the post, and he missed like 2 of them, and then finally got 1 to go, and he missed the second free throw that would have tied the game. It's just there's so much there's so many little things when there's the giant autopsy of this season, there will be plenty of questions no matter how it ends. But there are so many games where this is their 5th loss in this building. Is it their fourth?
Rutgers, USC, Michigan, Minnesota. Am I forgetting another one?
Maryland.
Yep.
Is that 5 or is that 4?
That's 5.
That's 5. So you think of the 5 losses in this building, and just how little things, little things, caused the margin for error that led to some back-breaking losses when you look at the grand scheme of things for this team. And it's just Fred Hoiberg, he said some things that made my eyebrow raise a little bit about we're not good enough to be taking the ball out of the net, and talked about the lack of guys they have that can hit shots. I'm waiting on my fun little AI recorder to transcribe what we got from Fred and everyone afterwards. But you could definitely tell Fred Hoiberg, once again, he brought up body language and head hanging, and how it was when they got hit with the first half deficit, and it felt all too familiar. Like this is back to what we were talking about almost 2 months ago when they were in the thick of the rough shit, for lack of a better word.
But on this time, they turned it around, right? That's the difference. I agree. That's how it looked. And isn't it just crazy? Like, Juwan Gary just turns it on in the second half. He is unstoppable on the boards in the second half.
Yeah, five offensive rebounds. Those are his only rebounds of the game. 5 offensive rebounds.
He decided on the offensive rebound he was going to be unstoppable, and he was. And yet we go back during this streak that they've had when Berkey had been out, he would get 1 and 2 rebounds a game. And then all of a sudden, Sam decides he's going to, he all of a sudden gets to a point where he's getting steals every possession. He's being a complete pass. He's frustrating the hell out of that guy that he was guarding. Awesome, I believe. Annoying the hell out of him. Morgan, and while, yes, his in the first half, he was largely not really worth a whole lot on either side of the ball, I didn't think. I didn't think you had that every big was hurting you when they were in the first half. Every single one. And Berkey somehow may have been the worst of the 3, which is unbelievable.
Yeah.
But Morgan, you're going to get turnovers and you're not going to get aggressive defense. He's going to do this straight up thing and not foul on defense. He's not a rim protector. He's not going to stop people. But then all of a sudden he gets involved in the offense on those pick and rolls with Bryce. He gets a couple of baskets, and that's That's the best scenario for their bigs, is for him to be scoring and to be really involved in the offense, because at this point you're going to get turnovers from him. You're going to get turnovers from Mia. Something's wrong with Berke. I don't know what it is. Like, he isn't even close right now. He is not even close on much of anything. I don't know if he's not healthy or what it is, but he does not look near what he did. Not that he was being a world beater much of this year, but he's way below where his best was when it was happening this year. So, I mean, here's the bottom line about this team, guys. Like, this team it doesn't have the personnel it needs for offense, and Fred can't coach around it. And that may be an indictment on him. And maybe it's a bigger indictment on the players. He recruited them. He got them here, but they don't have the players they need on offense, bottom line. And they're not consistent enough on defense. First half defense. I mean, we can get to that too. I think one of the most telling, like, microcosms of the game is you've got to play where they're in that spot where they can't get anything, huge drought. And Essegian tries like a blind fadeaway from the elbow that is about a 8% chance shot of going in. He misses it. Minnesota takes it down, and Garcia just goes down and takes the ball, gets it, shoots a three, immediately makes it. Like, it's just the complete what's happening on one side, what's happening on the other side. None of it looked good at all. And the amount of variance in the way those guys play, from Sam to Essegian to Jawan Gary, all of those guys, and you have got to get their best. If you get all of their best, this team can fire on enough cylinders to beat some teams. But it's like flipping 5 coins and trying to get heads on all of them. You almost see that. Like I said at the beginning of the game, the one thing you know is Bryce is going to get 22. By the way, did Bryce have 22? When I said that this morning, how many points did Bryce have?
Bryce had 21.
Jawan
and Bryce both.
And he missed a free throw. I thought he was going to make that free throw.
Yep.
So
for both of them.
Like that's the assessment of the season for me. And some people are going to take that and say that's a coaching failure, and they're going to make conclusions about that, or they're going to look at the entire resume and everything for Fred and make that. I'll tell you this: like, if your hope right now, still with 2 games left, is that they're going to move on from Fred, you're going to be disappointed. They're not moving on with Fred, right? Can we? Am I wrong about that, Jacob? We can.
No, you're not wrong at all.
Like, and I get it might make people mad, it might frustrate people, but I just wouldn't get your hopes up if that's what you're pinning your hopes on.
No, they gave him a contract extension less than a year ago, and I mean that just puts, that makes men's sports around here next fall and winter a pretty big pressure.
Yeah.
A lot of pressure between the guy that was coaching today and the guy that was sitting courtside on one of the baselines going into next year. If this season ends, with a thud, because you think about, obviously, there's a lot that there will be plenty that was made of the roster construction with this group, regardless of where the season goes. And you need some sort of positive momentum to build up support, and if you want booster and NIL and that sort of thing, and you're waiting on rev share, like, when is that gonna happen? And there's a bunch of there's a lot of things that could there's a lot of things moving around. I got accused of being hyperbolic for saying that the last 3 minutes of that game may have been the most important 3 minutes of Fred's tenure. And I didn't want to I don't want to sound too absolute or defeatist, but it's you can look back. Hindsight's always 20/20, obviously, but when if things aren't great around here a year from now, you can look back to how this game ended and say it could have spiraled from there. But that's all just thinking. That's all just what could possibly happen. There's still 2 games to go in this season.
I made a comment during the game, and this is something I've come back over and over again. So if I have never held myself out. If anybody thinks I've ever held myself out as being an X's and O's expert, you're wrong. I never have. But I have continually said I don't understand why Bryce Williams is not getting to the rim more. He didn't do it the entirety of the first half until the last 2 minutes, and then what happened? He got fouled twice in a row, made made 3 free throws out of 4. Couple of times at the end of the game, he did again. He so rarely chooses or is able to do that, yet we'll see this over and over again in the first half. How many times does Sam Hoiberg off the dribble get down into the lane, deep into the lane? He's able to get there off the dribble, but then he's got 3 trees around him and he can't do anything.
And he's got to backtrack too.
Yes.
And he can't get around the corner, because of, because of his size and his athleticism. Like he can go toward the corner, but he can't turn it. And he's got to backtrack right. And, they have to almost like reset from the top. And it's there. I mean, that's another thing, talking about personnel and, what have you. I've said all season that I wish that this team ran more set plays. They have some pet actions that they run, but I don't think it's set play. There's not that many set plays. And, I that's one thing that I've been trying to beat the drum for all year is, if you need a bucket, why not draw something up to get 3 a bucket? You just draw something up where it's a set look play that's going to get him a look or get him a driving lane. And that's, I've been right there with you, Jack. I don't claim to be an X's and O's expert by any means either, but there are games.
Somebody who is can tell me what I'm missing.
Yeah, but there are games where I'm just like, why? I feel like Bright. I mean, I compared him to James. I compared him to James Palmer earlier in this season and got a little bit of pushback. But remember those 2 Palmer teams where there'd just be if Nebraska needs something, he'd just put his head down and go to the rim, and he was either gonna try and finish through contact or he was getting fouled, or there was no in between.
Bigelow, we saw him do. He did that last year though. We saw him do it last year when they needed it.
Yes.
And a lot of times it was when they got way behind, he started doing it, but it is used so rarely, and he's going to have such a good season. I don't get, if I am taking crazy pills, if I don't understand ball, someone please tell me, because I am missing it, why that cannot be more, especially Bigelow, when nothing else works. And he's obviously leaps and bounds the best offensive player in the team, not even close.
Mm-hmm.
If he's a 78 out of 100 on offensive rating, the next guy is probably a Season, who's probably about a 42 this year. That's probably the next guy, or Gary.
Yeah,
I don't understand why you can't use him to his strengths. You can't change your players in the middle of the season, but you can have your players play to their strengths, and that's been as much of a problem as the personnel is. They still, if they played to their strength, they could be in the NCAA tournament right now, right?
Yeah.
They wouldn't have had that 6-game losing streak. It wouldn't have looked like it did. They, you win. Well, I don't know about that Michigan game. That may not have ever worked.
Well, I didn't talk about this at length after that Michigan game, but there was so much talk about that last shot for a Season and the whole you got your best 3-point shooter an open look. Well, your best 3-point shooter was 0 for 4, and no one was making shots. And when maybe it was just what I think of Bryce Williams as the basketball player, but that game I thought, why is he not just try? You're down by 1. Why is he not trying to just go to the basket? That's what they did when they were down by 1 in this game, and Juwan Gary got the putback to put him up, and then we see what happens after that. But it just, there's a lot of questions. It's the way I've looked at this roster for the last month or so. I don't think I've said this on pod. It's Bryce, Juwan, and the Island of Misfit Toys from Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and it is cobbled together with whatever. I don't know if Connor Essegian wants to be a dentist, but it's the roster outside of those 2 is very much the Island of Misfit Toys. And if those two both, you get 42 of your 65 points from Bryce and Juwan today on a combined 16 of 32 shooting. The rest of the team goes 9 of 25 from the field. And
Connor even hit a few. Connor even did hit a few today, which was nice to see.
Yep,
but
4 of 11, 3 of 7 from 3. But just not having a third consistent option is also something that's going to come back to bite this team in the ass. When you look back on this season and deconstruct it, is you knew for the most part what you were getting out of your 2 6-year guys, but just the variance and who that third option was going to be. I think this is not sourced. This is just from what I've heard. Hey, Caleb.
Oh, hey guys.
Hey.
Caleb's back, leaving the Pinnacle Bank Arena, so you get the gnat sound there.
Yep. Scenery.
Finish that thought real quick, Bigelow, and then we'll go to Caleb again.
Yeah, I mean, I forgot what I was talking about.
Oh, okay.
I think no. I remember now.
Right.
I like this isn't like sourced or inside information or whatever. It's just what I've thought, like from listening to Fred Hoiberg talk. I think this season they wanted the third option to be Berkay, and it just has not played out, and it has not gone the way they thought it was going to be. And he, of course, ends up having his best game in a Nebraska jersey, and he gets hurt with 40 seconds left.
Yeah.
And now it's just going to be a reclamation project to finish the season. I think that is who they wanted to be their concrete third option, and that has just not been the case for 95% of this season.
Caleb and I have talked about it. You just didn't have the hits on this transfer class. Out of the guys in this transfer class, I think you could maybe argue Morgan was a little bit more. You got maybe what you hoped for, or a tiny bit more than you hoped for with him. But I think every other transfer in this class, I don't think Fred got what he was picturing from any of them. And that's tough. Now, and so that's why I say it's just this roster didn't ever give you a great shot. All that said, we just said they lost 3, 4, 5 games that they could have won by people playing in their role and having the effort and intensity on defense throughout the entire game that they showed second half of this game, all of the Michigan game, other times when it's been really good. They haven't been able to sustain that. And so it's kind of a weird deal, right? Was it the roster, or was it the way that they played that ended up costing them this year? Because there are a couple of different ways to look at it that are almost opposite, but I think both are true in some ways. All right, Caleb, you had a chance to say a couple of things here at the beginning, and then your internet was kind of messed up. Just to kind of get you up to date, we've been sort of talking big picture just about how you got to where you are this season, what went wrong in that first half particularly. I don't think you got a lot of chance to talk about that, but Caleb, again, it was one of those ones where it wasn't good on offense, it wasn't good on defense. It's almost like that first half of the Penn State game once again, the more I think about it.
Yeah, as soon as you got midway through the first half and Minnesota started to take over, I even tweeted this, that Nebraska looked slow, effort looked poor, nobody looked like they wanted to even be on the floor. It's maybe Sam Hoiberg, who looked like he was 110% at all times, and he had some sparks in the middle of that run in the second half. I saw you tweet out about it. How can Sam Hoiberg get to the rim so many times in a game, but he's just too small to do anything when he gets there? How do you not have other guys with that same ability to get into the lane? Maybe it's because other teams are fine with letting him get there, knowing that they'll be able to block the crap out of it if he does try to. But he did score a couple in there. It was just there could not have been a worse first half, and that for Nebraska, and that includes how bad things were against Penn State, and that includes how bad things were against Michigan.
Yeah, it's so weird. AirPods do this thing where they don't pick up your S's very good, and it makes you sound like this is what I've heard this happen on a whole bunch of interviews like this. So just so people know, that's what's happening. You still sound a million times better than you did before.
I got away from the Pinnacle Bank Arena internet, and we're just rocking 3G, 4G, 5G, whatever we're on right now in a parking lot.
We had a little bit of the bigger picture conversation now, which everybody seems to want to have now. My opinion as a fan is that I did it there, but I don't usually care to do it until the season's over. And so I know there are people, I've talked to them on our Discord. I can't imagine what the YouTube chat is like right now. I can only guess, but that have decided Nebraska is, 0-2 for the season and missing the Big Ten tournament, which, by the way, if they go 0-10, or 0-2, they don't need a lot of help. They're going to probably miss the tournament if they go 0-2.
Yes.
I ran the Big Ten simulator, and if they go 0-2 and it's chalk all the other games, then they miss the Big Ten tournament. So that is certainly a possibility, and I obviously acknowledge that could happen. I also don't, I'm getting killed for this places, but I also don't think it's determined that they can't go 2-0 either in these next two games. Because Guess what? As we talked about before, they're all over the freaking map. They're not consistently one thing ever. And this has happened at the end of Fred's season. I mean, basically we talked about this. Was it today, Jacob? The end of like 80% of seasons, or maybe it was with you, Kaleb.
Yeah.
Inexplicably, they start to pick it up in those last 2 games. And so I don't know if that's going to happen this year or not. It may. All I'm telling you is what I say on Josh's show all the time. I don't know how the last 2 games will go. If you are listening to this and you already know, congratulations. You are better at basketball analysis than I am, because I do not know. I believe 2-2, 1-1, 0-2 are all certainly possibilities going forward, because this team can be all over the place, and the difference between the best and the difference between their worst is a ton, because everyone outside of Bryce has a huge variance. And like I said, sometimes you flip a few heads in a row and that ends up being good enough, or you have that defensive effort consistently and that ends up being enough. I'll say this. You don't kill the messenger on this, but I have multiple people who do bracketology continue to say that if they get to 19 wins, they get 2 more wins, whomever they're against, that they're likely in. Now, if you think they're wrong, take it up with them. Don't come to me and be like, Jack, do you even watch the season? Screw you! Talk to the bracket. Get it after them on Twitter. And by the way, they're nerds. And I don't say that as a pejorative, because I am too. But they are bigger than I am when it comes to that. And so you get after them. They're telling you, do you have a spreadsheet where you broke it all down? Then bring that shit to them, not to me. I'm just telling you what they say, okay? And if you've decided you know how the season's over, well, then great. Why the hell are you even watching this show then? You know it all already. You freaking genius. Great job. You already know how the whole thing's end. I mean, why do you watch the end of a movie if you already know how it ends, dummy? So anyway, sorry, that last part was like, seriously, what are you doing? If you're done and it makes you sad, and they very well could lose a loss, and it's going to make you worse, and you've already determined it's happening. If it were me, I wouldn't even watch them. I wouldn't even watch them, but I wouldn't try to convince everyone I was right. I would just let it go on in the background and then maybe taunt everyone afterwards. I get that. And you can if you want to. But just be aware. I'm not saying they're going 2-0. I'm not saying they're going 0-2. I don't know. And you don't either. You don't. And if they do go 2-0, I'm going to find you. I am going to find you if they go 2-0. Wherever you are, this chat lasts. So I don't know if you can delete your chats, but I'm going to go back and find it. Okay?
Jack has a particular set of skills. But that's one of the things that I was able to say inside during my open, was that Nebraska theoretically can win the next 2, win a game in Indianapolis, and there's a good chance they're in the tournament. You got to be, because of where the bubble is.
If they do that, I guarantee they're in. If they do that, they get to 20, I guarantee they're in.
I don't think that's very likely. But yes, you can play the game of that is still a possibility out there. Because of this team, and the probably the biggest thing that I don't understand, and Bigelow, I know this will be a big thing for you in the offseason to go through and do the autopsy on the program and the way this game or this team went for the past year, but to consistently talk about the veteran team that you have. You heard it on the Huskers radio network consistently. Well, with this veteran team, blah, blah, blah. With this veteran team, you just didn't have any leaders. Now, yes, you have your quiet leader in Bryce Williams and what he's able to do scoring, and you have more. Maybe there's a little bit more emotion, but it doesn't feel like there's like a ton of leadership outside of that. Maybe there's Juwan Gary, maybe there's Sam Hoiberg, but he's still the coach's kid. Like, it just didn't feel like with as many guys and as many years of college basketball they had this year, there just wasn't leadership. Can some of that turn itself around in spurts? Sure, you can have guys get really hot. You can have the defensive effort, but I don't think the talking point for this year ever really was the veteran leader or the veteran players that were there, and that being a huge determiner in the way that they were going to play in a successful way. It was never something that was actually an attribute that helped or hurt the team.
Yeah, I think it is kind of just an odd team, isn't it? Emotionally,
oh, yeah.
like you've got obviously Bryce, who is just down here, which you would think in a lot of cases would be really good for sort of pressure situations, and he has been in a lot of cases. But then beyond that, and this is kind of sometimes you've got to create that when you're building teams with this kind of level of the transfer portal. And now everybody is, right? I mean, tons of teams are like this, but this in particular was a team that it was about, right? It was about Juwan, Bryce, and Sam Hoiberg coming back. And listen, we'll have plenty of time to talk about this, but I have no idea what you do with the roster for next year now. But there's plenty of time to worry about that.
A lot of open
forward,
spots.
So,
yeah, a lot, and then there's more scholarships now too.
Yes.
Don't forget about that. There's more scholarships for men's basketball, so don't forget about that too.
You know what the funny thing is? Ohio State fans are also saying the same thing. They're saying there's zero chance they're going to beat Nebraska at home. So somebody's 0% chance, is going to come to fruition.
Somebody's wrong.
I mean, they're the same spot.
It's the ultimate loser leaves town game. I mean, Ohio State already has 13 losses. Like, that's the thing about Ohio State. They have 13 losses with 2 to play, and their last 2 games are against the other 2 Big Ten teams that are considered bubbly, Nebraska and zombie Indiana, on the Mike Woodson Memorial Heater to finish the season in Bloomington. And it's that game on Tuesday, it's a late game too. I think that's going to be a 9:00 local time tip in Columbus, in an arena where I have had people who played in that program say that arena is where hype goes to die. So if you have heard all about bring your own energy, you got another one looming large in front of you on Tuesday night in Columbus, Ohio.
3 years ago, Nebraska going into Ohio State to play them then in the second to last game of the year. Nebraska was a much bigger underdog in that game than they will be coming up, right? Remember that one? Bigelow was that, am I right? 3 years when they pulled off Ohio State.
I think that was the Verge year, the Verge McGowan's year, right?
They went in there and then they beat Wisconsin, right? Those are the 2 road games at the end. You want a team we were down on? You think this is as bad as it's gotten? Come, you know better than that, unless you're like 8. And if you're 8, maybe turn around. But if you're not 8, you know better than this.
If you're 9,
if you're turn around.
Like, seriously, they did pull off a win at USC, but man, since Nebraska beat them, by the way, a couple of weeks ago, Nebraska beat them 79-71. They since beat Washington and then lost to Michigan and then got absolutely blown out of the water at home by Northwestern. They haven't played a home game since that Northwestern game. Again, this is going to be about who's given up, right? If Ohio State's given up or Nebraska's given up here at this point. And maybe it'll end up that Nebraska has. We don't know. But let's not act like going into Ohio State now is some kind of freaking wolf's den that you're never going to come out alive. God, they're one of the most miserable performing teams over the second half of the season in the entire friggin' nation. They played themselves onto the bubble, from being off the bubble completely a month ago. So come on now. Come on. Let's see. I'm ready. I'm ready for people who say, look, let's see what happens. Let's hope like hell it goes well. We're due for it to go well, right? There's another way to look at it. Freaking law of, what's the word I'm looking for? Like the eventually things have to change at some point. Whatever. I don't know.
The law of eventually have
What is
to
the word I'm trying to think of that I can't think of? Averages. Good gravy. These post-game shows are freaking killing me. They're taking years off my life. I feel like every one of these devastating, either the blowouts and now the close L's, are just taking it off my life. And freaking A, 2 shots. Here's the other thing. 2 shots go in. A Seasons 3, right, goes in, or the Minnesota shot is missed, or both of them are. Hell, what if both of them were missed? What if we changed 2 shots this season? What if we changed those 2 shots? A Seasons 3, wide open 3 goes in like it would 40% of the time. 60% of the time it wouldn't. And Eleanor Rigby's shot misses like it would 75% of the time. Okay? Then you would have this team locked up and playing for seeding for the next 2 days, for the next 2 games. So, I know everybody likes to get down after losses. Woe is my life. I definitely do that, but I don't know. Let's write it out. We can do
it's
plenty
very,
of that.
it's very football-y that every loss has to be a referendum on the coach and the program, and yeah, it's very poison football brain. Don't worry, spring practice will be here soon. You can tune in for Chasing 3 spring practice edition when the time comes, but it's not that time yet. It's not that time.
Right. Exactly. Yes. I guess I didn't mean the law of averages on the large scale. I meant within the season, but whatever. It doesn't matter now. All right. Should we wrap this up? I'm too off the rails.
Sure.
We're losing viewers. Any final thoughts, guys, before we wrap this up?
We did get a YouTube super chat from our biggest fan,
Theo.
Theo.
I get Theo.
Theo with the 5. Fantastic takes, fellas. Salute. 3 salute emojis.
I bet he's the only one in the chat who thinks that, which is funny.
Yep. So we appreciate you, Theo. You're the man. You've been with us this entire way. So I wanted to give a little shout out to Theo. And yeah, I don't really have any other final thoughts. I think this was the last sweater game of the season. Mother Nature got me to pull a sweater out of the closet one more time. One more. 11:30 in the morning on a Sunday, a week from tomorrow against Iowa, and that does it for the home slate at PBA. Weird feeling.
So let me reveal something real quick. We were gonna come on, and here I saw Jawan get that putback. We were gonna come on, and I thought, first of all, I was gonna be having a happy hour beverage and celebrating and talking fun tournament stuff. And we were going to announce that we were going to do a live watch along for Ohio State.
Yep.
And hopefully be in a great mood for it. Everybody's in a terrible mood now.
Are we going to do a watch along for the season?
What do you mean for the season?
They got to grab a couple more wins. They lose to Ohio State, it's over.
I mean, we turned around a little momentum last time we did a watch along. People should remember that.
How much wine do I need to buy?
That said, I'm not going to do the whole, if they get behind, I'm not having a second half referendum on Fred. I'm not doing that. I can't do it. I won't do it. You guys can do it. Not you guys, but other people can do it on their own time. Totally. But if there's but for those of you who haven't, it's only for people. I want to make a Patreon tier that's only people who haven't checked out on the season, right? And that's the only people who can come watch it.
20% discount. If you're still in, you get a discount.
Yes. I don't know. I mean, I would but who knows? By Tuesday night, I'm gonna have talked myself back.
You're gonna be all in on it.
I'm gonna be all in. You know what I'm gonna be doing? I'm gonna be screaming about the bracketologists who are saying it, not me. Who, by the way, I can show you exact tweets. Caleb, you saw him.
I mean, P3 says we're in, baby.
He said Nebraska still may be in the last 4 in. Like right now. Here's the other thing. Let me leave you on just this note. I had someone on our Discord chat be like, this team doesn't deserve to get in based on how they look. Yeah, you know who else doesn't either? South Carolina, Texas, a whole slew of bubble teams that don't look like they should get in.
Ohio State.
Good one.
Dude, and Jack,
Indiana, of the year.
I alluded to this, and you also because next week also starts mid-major conference tournaments. So we talked this morning about bid thieves and bid stealers and all that stuff. I mean, the bubble. The bubble is still awfully smelly, and I'm not saying Nebraska smells good by any stretch. They definitely don't have any. They don't have any cologne on. You can definitely tell they've been sweating quite a bit, but there's still such. I mean, we talked at length about the margin for error for this team. The bubble is. I mean, that's a crapshoot. It could go any which way, and we just gotta let it all play out, let it all happen. So we'll see how it all goes.
But Jack, were those teams behind 20 at home to a bad team? Yes, literally. South Carolina was up on 20 on Arkansas today, and Arkansas lost by about that much too. Nebraska gained ground on Arkansas today. who is up there ahead of them right now in at least the BART rankings and in some of the
Nebraska
bubbles, right?
versus John Calipari and Dayton. Who says no?
Yeah. North Carolina with 0 quad 1 wins. Okay. So, like, get this crap out of here that, Nebraska's not good enough for the bubble. The bubble sucks. Okay. The bubble sucks. So it's not that you have to be good enough consistently. You got to have enough good moments. And there's still time to have good moments.
But Jack, they don't look like a tournament team. They don't look like Houston or Duke.
Yeah. I mean, put Xavier up against Duke and see how it goes. I mean, come on.
There are 68 teams that make the NCAA tournament. Do you think all 68 of those teams look like world beaters? You don't have to look like the Death Star to make the NCAA tournament.
Right.
You can just be Luke Skywalker's little fighter, and you can make the tournament too. And you've got a chance. You don't have to be, you don't have to look like the Big Show from WWE to make the NCAA tournament. You can be okay. Like you can be painfully okay. Somebody even say painfully average and make the NCAA tournament because that's college basketball.
I mean, hell, Connor Essegian know at some point when he's shooting that it's just like shooting womp rats back home.
When I hear someone say Nebraska does not look good enough to be a bubble team that gets into the NCAA tournament, you know what my ears hear? I got an automatic translator. You know what it actually hears? And I'll give you the actual sound I hear in my ear.
I'm a dumbass.
I don't know ball, Jack. All right. We'll see what you guys think on the we'll see. Let's get back together on. Let's let the weekend get through. Let's all sleep it off. Let me get hyped up with tournament bracketologists and JBR and T3 tweets and those sorts of things. Let's revisit this on Monday about whether or not there is going to be a referendum-free, and that's what we're going to call it. Alex said it in the Discord chat, a referendum-free watch-along, okay? Leave your referendum at home if you're going to come, okay? And if you bring your referendum in, you will be escorted out, okay? Think of like the gun signs that they've got when you go into a daycare or something. We've got that, but with referendum discussion on the long term.
It's like
Fred Hoiberg's job.
It's like if you walk around Nebraska's campus, there's the tobacco-free campus signs.
Yes.
We just have this is a referendum-free.
So I'm going to make a list of rules of things that I don't.
Yeah, refrain from using, smoking, or vaping your referendum while on campus.
Yes, you're coming to my house to watch the game, so we'll follow my house rules about what you can talk about. Right? This ain't the American government. I can violate the shit out of your First Amendment rights. Okay? I'm a private actor, and I will if we do this. All right. I need to say goodbye, obviously.
Yeah, we compared Connor Essegian to Hermie from Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and Luke Skywalker. We need to go. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.